Hello and welcome to Kaleidoscope with me, Savithri Rodrigo, where we are enjoying some great city hospitality by Cinnamon Grand Colombo this week. On the People's Bank News Capsule, Chairman of John Keel's Holdings, Krishan Balendra, gives a quick overview of the $175 million investment given by IFC to JKH. Psychologist and mental health care professional Ayanti Rasini Bandara explains that WFH or working from home is not what it all seems to be. And how does the law work for the LGBTQ community? Let's find out. On Let's Talk today, former Director General of the Department of Wildlife Conservation, Dr. Sumit Pilapitiya, and Srilal Mittapala of TASL, the past president, don't mince words about Sri Lanka's future in wildlife. And bar and Pilates instructor at Bar Essential, Namini Jayaratna, shows you some intelligent exercising you can do in life in 60. Quite packed, as you can see. So let's begin with the People's Bank News Capsule for this week. Here's our People's Bank News Capsule. This week, John Keel's Holdings entered into a 10-year finance agreement with the International Finance Corporation of the World Bank. Chairman of John Keel's Holdings, Krishan Balendra, gave Kaleidoscope the details.
The IFC facility of US dollars 175 million to JKH is the largest ever investment by IFC in Sri Lanka. The terms are very attractive. There is a 10-year tenor with the first capital repayments starting only in December 2024. The interest rate at current rates is just 4.21%. This significantly strengthens the John Keel's balance sheet and positions us to fund our future investments.
The investment will lead to 100 new Keel's supermarkets in Sri Lanka and the refurbishment of the group's hotel properties in both Sri Lanka and the Maldives. And so we move to the stock market, where that announcement saw the JKH share go up by 8% to trade at 130 rupees per share by end of Thursday. The ASPI crossed the 5,000 point mark for the first time in 3 months this week and sustained that positive momentum. The indices moved up by 3.1% and the daily turnover was slightly lower than last week at 1.3 billion rupees. In further good news, export earnings in May moved up to $602 million from $277 million in April. The Export Development Board declared that almost all sectors fared better in May, and this positivity will continue. After having cut its losses in 2019, the Ceylon Electricity Board plans to grow by fast-tracking delayed projects, adding wind farms and more hydropower into its portfolio, constructing a 300-megawatt LNG plant, which would hopefully lead to a drop in CEB losses by 15 billion rupees in 2020. So, we can walk on the beach at the port city next year when it's opened to the public in 2021. A 2-kilometer stretch of beach is now being developed, including a beach stadium, a beach park, children's park, and even a walking path from Golface Green. WFH, or working from home, is now the new permanent, at least for most workplaces. How would WFH permanently impact the ecosystem of the work as we know it? I asked mental health care professional for Mind Heals, psychologist Rasini Ayanti Bandara, if working from home is becoming a permanent fixture in the workplace.
Well, I think it's becoming a major possibility, Savithri, because of the fact that, you have to take extreme health measures, and at the same time, social distancing is expected. And also you have to adhere to so many, rules and regulations. So taking this into consideration, I think many companies and many employers are thinking about taking this in a long run,
So how does it impact the individual and the company, the good and the bad?
Now, if you take individual level, then I would say the good side of it, you're saving money, you're saving your time. At the same time, you are not facing too many stressful situations, like, for example, having to experience traffic for long hours and hours. But then if you take the bad side of it, a lot of people are complaining that they're having issues when it comes to concentrating, and then at the same time, decision making and critical thinking. Also, it's really affecting their health. I mean, they are exposed to long hours and hours of staying stuck in one room and not having social interactions. I mean, because humans are social beings, we need to, connect with people. So they are lacking this side of it. So some might like it, to work alone, but at the same time, you need teamwork, to get that drive, for them to work. So this is a factor that, that will really affect a company as a whole.
So if this is going to become permanent, how do you recommend companies take it forward?
So I would recommend that, either once or twice a week, if you can get all the employees to this working space and then, make them interact, get them to communicate about their challenges, their obstacles, regarding working from home. And then again, after considering all this, the management can take certain amendments, to make it right.
As Pride Month draws to a close, a question that continually pops up is it illegal to be gay or lesbian in Sri Lanka? The consensus is yes. But now, thanks to W Now, iPro Bono and Daily Mirror, we share some surprising answers. Twilight Star and the gritty princess in Snow White and the Huntsman, Kristen Stewart will play a real-life princess. She's been cast as Diana, the Princess of Wales, in Pablo Larraín's new drama, Spencer. That very smelly fruit, durian, which is currently in season in Sri Lanka and has that rather distinctive smell, led to the evacuation of 60 people in a post office in Germany and put 6 others in hospital. And that's it for our People's Bank News Capsule this week. We'll be back with Let's Talk with Dr. Sumit Pilapitiya and Srilal Mittapala.
Technology is key in moving forward to transform every challenging moment into a profit, where manual becomes digital, business becomes smart, and lives become smarter. People's Bank Online Corporate Banking. It's truly the change you need.
Sri Lanka is one of the world's 34 biodiversity hotspots and ranks #1 in observability for wildlife in national parks. This tiny island has been called the best wildlife tourism destination next to Africa. Sri Lanka is the only country in the world where the largest sea mammal, the whale, and the largest land mammal, the elephant, can be sighted in just a matter of hours. It also has the best sighting of leopard and a high density of Asian elephant. But here's what it is. While much lip service is paid to wildlife conservation, very little is done about it. In just these last 3 weeks, we've seen the deaths of a rare black leopard, 2 other leopard, a mother elephant shot and killed, and a tusker dead. These are all one too many. With 25 years' experience at the World Bank, environmental scientist and former Director General at the Department of Wildlife Conservation in Sri Lanka, Dr. Sumit Pilapitiya, and past President of the Tourist Hotels Association of Sri Lanka, Srilal Mittapala, a keen environmentalist and wildlife enthusiast, joins us on Let's Talk to discuss COVID-19's wake-up call, their biggest fears now that the parks are open, and the politicization of the wildlife industry. Was COVID-19 actually nature's wake-up call to Sri Lanka? What were the parks like during this time?
Well, I think national parks and sanctuaries are declared for protection and conservation of wildlife. So for the first time, I think since our parks were declared, the wildlife actually got what the parks were intended to do, because they had no human presence and they could behave the way they behave in nature without being bothered by humans.
From my perspective, yes, the COVID crisis gave us an excellent opportunity to put a lot of things right. So that's where I felt that the wildlife department would have used that downtime to do a lot of things. I know there were shutdowns, but still, during their normal patrols, they could have studied how the animals are behaving, what sort of movements, a lot of information that they could have gathered for management, for future management, which I think did not happen. And secondly, from my tourism cap, it would have been an ideal opportunity to publicize what's going on inside the park during the shutdown. Now, I saw some video clips, live video clips from South Africa of the rangers going on their patrols without tourists, but going on a safari and talking. And I suggested it to the wildlife department, and it never worked.
So, Srila, the parks opened on the 15th of June. What are your biggest fears now?
Biggest fears, I think there's going to be a pent-up demand, as we saw last week. There's a lot of people going into the park. So we need to make people understand that, as Sumit said, that these are areas reserved for the animals, and also take advantage of the COVID situation and put it on that and say, look, you got to keep social distancing and reduce the numbers, and we could have done a lot of things. So I fear that this is only the Sri Lankans who are traveling right now. So when we open up for tourism and tourism starts moving, I am a little bit concerned that we might go back to the normal, or even worse than the normal.
How much of T&D is actually being done?
The Federation of Environmental Organizations, assisted by the wildlife, at the request of the Wildlife Department of Wildlife Conservation and Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, undertook a training of jeep drivers in Minneria Kaudula last year. We trained over 1,200 jeep drivers. And since I do my research in Minneria Kaudula on elephant behavior research, I observed the change in the drivers pre-training and post-training. Because pre-training, jeep drivers used to block elephants coming into water. Right? Because they were blocking elephants coming into water, elephants started hitting vehicles, charging vehicles and attacking vehicles. So they realized when you attack a vehicle, the vehicles move apart and they can go into water. After the training, I have observed myself, first-hand observations of jeep drivers moving their vehicles when elephants are coming, giving them gaps to go in. And the best thing is, the amount of attacks of elephants on vehicles also drastically reduced after the training.
And Srila, we have been seeing an inordinate number of leopard and elephant dying or being killed or caught up in snares and then dying in these last few weeks. What about those handling wildlife? How important is training for them?
I think there is experience lacking, because in the wildlife department, I don't think we have more than 15-20 vets. 18 vets in the whole country, right? And secondly, how much of experience have they got? Because wildlife veterinary science is, you have to actually experience it and learn by experience. Even downing an elephant, the tranquilizer, how much you put into that is not an exact science, it's experience.
Sri Lanka veterinary medicine program in the universities trains vets to be livestock vets, not wildlife vets, because that is the market.
Yeah.
You can't really blame them also, because with that background you come to the department, as Srila said, it's a completely different way of having to deal with animals. So what we should be doing, the government also should invest a lot of money in training these vets. Since we don't have programs in the country, send them out and get them trained in wildlife.
Sumit, is our wildlife tourism industry politicized?
Yes. And when I say it is politicized, I'm not talking about politicization under this government or the last government. I think over the last 25 years, wildlife tourism has been politicized because we are looking for short-term gain, revenue-wise, as well as jobs for the local community. And that governs everything. Without the politicians who are making decisions do not realize that if you manage this well, you plan this well, wildlife tourism industry in Sri Lanka will be sustainable.
What's next? What fundamentals need to be put in place?
Well, first of all, the government of Sri Lanka has to make up its mind do they really want to elevate wildlife tourism to what it can be, the potential it can reach, which is it can become easily one of the highest revenue generating industries in Sri Lanka. If they want to go there, then there is a roadmap to go there.
I'll step back and look at the Department of Wildlife. I think there has to be a radical makeover of the department. I think it has to be freed of the shackles of political patronage. Professionals must run the place. I also think that there should be some private sector, public sector partnership here, because this whole thing about wildlife, nature, flora being national, and therefore no one else can touch it. As a partnership, there's a lot of things that you could help the wildlife in the lack of resources and things like that. So I think unless there's a radical change in this whole structure and how they operate, I am a little bit hesitant to say that the future is very bright.
So is Sri Lanka serious about elevating wildlife tourism into a high revenue generator, or are we happy just letting politicization get in the way and watch our precious wildlife hasten towards a speedy death? The choice must be made. Thank you, Dr. Sumit Pilapitiya and Srilal Mithapala, for joining us on Let's Talk. And coming up next in Life in 60, Bar and Pilates instructor at Bar Essential, Namini Jayaratna, shows you some intelligent exercising.
Today on Life in 60, Sri Lanka's first dedicated bar and Pilates boutique fitness offering that focuses on intelligent exercise will give you some exercises to maintain fitness, especially in these social distancing and low contact times. Watch bar and Pilates instructor at Bar Essentials, Namini Jayaratna.
Hi, so today I'm going to take you through 2 exercises that will help you with a little bit of back pain, because most of us are working at home, right? So to get started, let's lie down on the mat. When you lie down, you want to lie down in a neutral stance where you're not arching or curling off the mat, and take your hands onto your stomach. Right, rest your elbows onto the floor. This is called marching. So what we do is you take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, take your right leg up to tabletop. Tabletop is knees right on top of your hips, heels in line with your knees, and inhale to lower back down. Exhale to come up and lower. You want to control with the lower core without arching or curling off the mat. Keep your spine nice and still in that neutral stance. And the second one is called shoulder bridges. So for that, you take your hands down to the mat, turn your palms up towards the sky. Take a deep breath in, exhale, start to tuck the tailbone under by contracting your lower belly. Squeeze the glutes and slowly, gently start to lift up. One vertebra off the floor at a time. Squeeze the glutes, let the knees travel forward and the hips travel up towards the sky. Take a weight onto your shoulders. Take a deep breath in up top. And as you exhale, scoop the belly in towards the spine as you slowly start to bring one vertebra down to the floor at a time and work all the way down towards your tailbone. So if you do these exercises at home, the first one you can do about 10 on each leg and the second one about 8. And that should help you really strengthen the muscles in and around that area. Stay safe.
And as you head on to the weekend, don't forget a quick pick and go from the coffee stop at Cinnamon Grand, which is open every day from 7 a.m. to midnight. It's a great way to get some scrumptious muffins, loaves, croissants, desserts, and even sweet and savory popcorn.
And so, all you've got to do is pick and go and delve into some of your favorite bakery items from Cinnamon Grand. If you want to give us any feedback, suggestions, or stories you would like to see on Kaleidoscope, please email us on kaleidoscopeweekly1@gmail.com.
Until next week, stay away from controversy. You'll be much happier that way. Now, here's your Kaleidoscope takeaway. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much.